you get a placebo alcohol. It has 0% alcohol. Yeah. Do you think you'll end up in bed still?
Yes. I'm not saying that is my addiction. I'm just saying
No, it's okay. Like you can
for
just say it's
someone
okay.
who, yeah,
Just say it. It's fine. Hi, welcome to Sanity Stop Check podcast. I am Moses Sichach alongside Debbie Mombi, episode 3, Thanatophobia, Why We Love Doing Drugs, and Sanity. If you have a minute right before we start, just hit the subscribe button and feel free to share the podcast to those who would enjoy this type of content. So, Debbie, where to start? How would you define an addiction?
I would describe it as the inability of someone to control either substance abuse or a habit, and it's at the subconscious level. That's what I believe. I think that would be my definition.
So basically, you're saying that if you are not able to control a habit or substance abuse, you're basically an addict, right? There's
Yes.
something that I saw, like it's called attention bias. It's an idea called attention bias, yeah? Where if you are addicted, you tend to immediately you have the stimulus for, let's say, the habit or the substance. Yeah? It doesn't matter what your goal actually is. So you have an attention bias towards that thing. Yeah? And I think the other thing is, for me, it's something that hijacks your, what is it called? Your pleasure system in your brain, right? Like it hijacks it. Yeah.
Your
So
dopamine and your
basically, I
pleasure.
think mainly the dopamine production. Yeah? So however you interpret the reward system, so you gain more reward from doing the addictive thing rather than the normal things that will actually trigger the reward system. Yeah? So if maybe you have to delay gratification, someone who is an addict is unable to delay gratification. So maybe you get your salary, you get your income, and you cannot quite wait, especially let's say you are a gambling addict. Yeah, so you have the habit of gambling. So instead of maybe you say like, oh, I want to put my money in the money market fund. Yeah, but immediately you
Yeah.
get your income, the immediate thing is I want to gamble because it's an immediate reward. So I don't know, the other thing is, do you know what thanatophobia is?
No, you can explain it to us.
So, okay, I don't know if it's an explanation. It's more like a definition, but basically, thanatophobia is, in a short sentence, is the fear of death or dying. And okay, this is the episode. I have a theory that everyone, like, we are addicted because of the fear of death. On a long enough rabbit hole, thinking rabbit hole, you come to the conclusion like addiction is something because of the fear of death. I have a very specific question to you. Yeah? Do you think addiction is a bug or is it a feature of a human being?
Is addiction a bug or a feature? I don't think, I think it's a bug. I don't think it's a feature of the human race. I think what the substances or the habits may be features, because there's nothing wrong with cocaine, for example.
Hot take, hot take.
No, I'm saying it's true. There's nothing wrong with cocaine.
Okay, okay, okay. I
It
think
has
context is
detrimental
important here.
issues.
Yeah.
It has effects on your body. But if today I wake up and I sniff cocaine and I get a high and I decide not to take it again, there's nothing wrong with that.
Except, why don't people decide not to take it again? Okay, remember the first time maybe you took alcohol, right? Why did you take it again? Because you can
Mm.
decide not to take it again. So why did you take it again?
Okay, this is very controversial. For me, alcohol is very cultural. Like I saw it everywhere when I was a kid. So I didn't perceive alcohol as a drug.
Okay, but also, so you saw it everywhere, so you didn't perceive it as a drug. Yeah? What
Yeah,
drug?
I didn't perceive it as a negative thing. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It does.
So
I don't know if you.
when I took it at first, it wasn't sweet. And I was like, why are they drinking it if it's not sweet? Because at the time I was a kid and it was like, whatever you should consume should be at least spicy or sweet or something that is okay with the mouth. It applies to the senses of the mouth. I'm not saying alcohol doesn't, but at the time as a kid, it didn't make sense. But when I tried it again, I think the appeal was the high that came after. It wasn't about the taste of the drink.
Okay, so if I get it right, alcohol was not a problem culturally for you because you saw it everywhere. So we are going to talk on hypotheticals from now because again in Kenya weed is not legal. So hypothetically, let's say you smoke.
Yeah.
Why would you smoke again the second time? Because I'm still
Maybe
following the
because
thread.
of
Like
fear.
there's nothing wrong with cocaine, yeah? So like hypothetically,
Yeah.
why would you do it the second time? Because that's where the interesting stuff comes.
I think it would be the environment. The environment in which I was introduced to the drug to.
Elaborate just a little bit.
So for example, I'll give an example look between me and weed, my relationship between me and weed. Weed was introduced to me by peers in campus. My perception of weed before that was you can go crazy when you consume a lot of weed. So when my peers really insisted that I tried it and I had the best sleep I've ever gotten from that. So the next time I used weed again was because the same type of peers were around me. But it wasn't I intentionally sought the drug.
Okay, so my question is, have you ever intentionally sought the drug after that?
Yes.
So here, I think I have a point. My argument is like after a certain number of unintentional tries, yeah, it becomes intentional. And I think when we are talking about addiction, because people just say like, oh yeah, you can just stop, it's a matter of will, etc., right? Even though I have a funny story in the sense that I used to smoke a lot, but not tobacco, nicotine, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And I remember it was 2021, I think 2020. Yeah? I used to get nosebleeds from that time from putting the tobacco. So what happened? I just woke up one day and I stopped smoking, just like that. I'm not like anal about smoking or anything. Yeah? I'm not going to demonize anything. I'm not going to say anything about it. Yeah, I'm not going to get anal about it. But I just stopped. I just woke up and I stopped, and it was the same with weed for me. I just didn't like it, and then I just stopped. But there's this argument like you just don't stop. Like it's almost a process because like it means maybe I had disassociated it with pleasure, yeah, in my own mind.
Yes.
So it was very easy for me to just, moral of the story, I almost died when I stopped
Oh no.
smoking. It took me like a whole month. Yeah, because I was getting these headaches. It's almost like a constant hangover, not a hangover, a constant sickness that you have. Yeah. But after it went, I was good. Like, just like that.
What was the rationale behind you stopping to use the drug?
I don't think there was a rationale. Like, I didn't moralize it. Yeah. Because I don't
Okay.
mind I still don't mind smoking. I don't care if someone is smoking. Like, I don't have any moral attachment to it. Let me say this. In the case of weed, like, I didn't like, what is it called? I don't know the word in your country, but in Kenya, tunaita kumedi. I didn't like the medding and ilikuwa inanifanyikia. It used to make me like feel really low. So, I don't know. It stopped being a pleasure thing. It was almost masochistic in some way. Like, it's almost like I want to feel bad when I take it, yeah? So, like, I just stopped taking it. Just like that, yeah? For cigarettes, I don't know. Like, I just felt it's too much. One day I woke up and then looked at my room and there were a lot of cigarette butts, which were many. I was saying, like, I need to create a sabatwako with the skeleton of the cigarette. Like the butts, this already smoked cigarettes. They were too much. And then, like, I was just like, ugh, not my thing. Like, I have no reason. I don't know why. I just stopped. I think they were not the drugs for me, yeah?
Don't you think maybe the drugs were not doing the intended purpose?
Exactly. That's what I was coming
Maybe
to.
the specific drugs were giving you a specific need.
And that's why I'm coming from when I'm asking you, like, do you think that it's the fear of death that makes, because I had asked, okay, before we move too fast, yeah, I had asked, do you think it's a bug? Are addictions a bug or a feature? And okay, the correct question would be, are addictions a bug or a feature of consciousness? Because again, it's not only humans who get addicted. There's this experiment where, like, these neurobiologists train rats, like, to hit a lever and then they get a heroin dose. Yeah. So it's not only humans that get addicted. Yeah? It's a lot of animals that get addicted. Yeah? So is it a consciousness feature? Like, is addiction a consciousness feature? Because you said, like, is it a bug or is it a feature? So you mentioned the first time you answered, you said, like, I think it's a bug. And I wanted to know why your first answer was, I think it's a bug. I'm really curious.
Oh, you didn't? Okay. So I think it's a bug because, as I said, I don't think cocaine is bad in my understanding. You see, when I decide to take cocaine today and sniff it, it will give me a level of high. But the highness of any drug is not why we go back. This is my rationale. The highness provides an escape. It provides a certain need at that particular moment. If it doesn't, you don't go back to the actual drug. So I think that is why I thought that addiction is a bug. It's very attracted to consciousness. So the highness is not what people go back to. It's what the highness provides.
So
Like
it's
it meets
the job.
a specific
It's the
goal.
job that the highness does that makes someone come back again to the drug. Because for me, okay, I agree with you, and to some extent, I'm like, on a long enough timeline, it becomes a feature. So
Okay.
so let's say you say, like, it does a job. So for me, I'm like, so let's say, what are the instances? So let's say you are stressed, yeah, or like maybe you are bored. You're just bored. What else? What else can me? Okay, so you talked about you're being in a peer group, so meaning there is more going on, fear of missing out, right?
Yeah.
So, like, maybe someone has a lot of, also funny thing, you can have a personality disorder, yeah, that
Yeah.
makes you either seek excitement, etc. So, like, that's something. But I think because of all this all these factors, yeah, I'm thinking like it is a feature of consciousness. I'm not thinking of it as a bug, because there's this statement like nature abhors a vacuum, right? So
Mm.
what is it called? Anechoic you know the story of, it's not a story, I don't know, like it's an experiment, I'm not sure what it is. The anechoic chamber, where like the room is soundproofed, blah blah blah, and then there was this rumor that like you can't stay there for 45 minutes. But I think, do you watch Veritasium? I think Veritasium did stay past 45 minutes, yeah. But again, like I think
Mm.
he had a goal, right, to prove a
Mm.
point. But there's this rumor like most people can't stay for 45 minutes, they start getting hallucinations, because like
Mm.
in that
Right.
room you can feel your heartbeat, you can feel this, you can hear the sound of your blood circulating. It is this. So
Yeah.
I'm like, why can't we stay 45 minutes in silence, in total silence? Is it because our brains needs to be
I don't think
constantly
we are wired
stimulated?
like that.
Yeah, like, and I'm like, why are we wired like that? Why? Like, because I have a theory. Yeah? We are wired like that because it helps with survival. I'm always on.
Yeah.
I'm like an area that's always on. My brain is an antenna. There's this argument. This guy is called what? Professor Hoffman. I know his second name clearly, Hoffman. And he has this theory that reality is okay. Like what we perceive as reality is a simulation. Yeah, it's not him alone. Even I'm forgetting the name of this Dr. Levin. Yeah, it has also the same. They kind of stem from the same basic argument, and then they spread out in different directions. Yeah. So, for example, Dr. Hoffman, Professor Hoffman was saying like, what you are an antenna to stimuli. Yeah? So, for example, you can't see the world for what it really is. Yeah? In short, if you process all the stimuli, in short, you process all the atoms, you process all the waves, you process all at once. Yeah, you'll be overwhelmed. Yeah. So, like, he was making this argument: we pick stimuli in our environment that benefits our survival. Basically, I think
Mm.
that is his basic stimuli. Yeah? So, and also I think it's the same argument. Okay, it's not what Dawkins argues about. Dawkins has this argument of the selfish gene, yeah? Where like it's not about you, it's about the genes. So between me and you and a goat, etc. Yeah, you will find like we have some similar genes considering we are mammals. It's about the survival of that gene across time. It's not about the survival of Debbie, because you are a lot of things. You are a collection of genes and bacteria and like that's what forms a human being, right? So there's
Yeah.
the issue of survival of the genes. So like if we start at that level and then we go like we cannot perceive reality the way it is, because again it will be too overwhelming. Yeah. And then we have a layer of we are aware, and
Mm.
that changes so many things. So it's so important that when I'm awake, yeah, I don't miss, my genes want to survive. So I can't miss a stimuli. I can't miss anything, right? So I'm always, and again, let's get historical a little bit. And I'm like, we are not yet at this level of a civilization. It's, let's say, the year, what, 0 BC. What was the year 0? Was it BC already? Whatever, 0 AD, whatever the date, yeah? But I think 0 AD we had societies there. Yeah? Okay, let's
We
take it
did.
around what 5,000 years ago, right? And we are in the savannas. We don't have houses. We don't have things like this. So how do we
Mm.
stay alive? You have to be very aware of your surroundings, yeah? Of the danger
Yeah.
of food, because again, food is scarce at that time. So like we have to hunt. You have to need in order to eat, and that's a very different environment. You have to run for hours chasing an antelope, because again, like you're not faster than an antelope, but because you sweat, you can outlast an antelope. So I'm like, because of that, yeah, we needed to be on constantly. Yeah. And if you look at, let's say, animals like dogs or cats, they sleep a lot, right? In short, they need to switch off. Like, so long as they are awake, they are on, and they need to switch off. So if you
Mm.
have, I have a dog, so when she's awake, she wants me. If let's say I'm going for a walk, I have to take her with me. It gets her so excited, like it stimulates her mind. Yeah. I
Yeah.
have a cat. The cat sleeps all the time unless there's noise outside or they want to
Yeah.
go and etc. Yeah? So I think there's a problem. Like the way we are designed, the way our genes want to survive is you have to be on. And because of that, and that's what I've said, because nature abhors a vacuum automatically, yeah, we can't we fear being bored. It's almost a fear of being bored, yeah, or a fear. And that's why I said, like, if you think about it deep enough, it's always something to do with the fear of death, right? Because
Yeah.
like you are you are in an environment where what happens when you are bored? I think, I don't know, maybe it's a subjective experience, but for me, boredom always like almost points at your mortality. You're very aware of how alive you are. And the problem of being aware of how alive you are, you're very aware of how dead you can be. Yeah. So I think it boils down to that. So like you always want to distract yourself. I want to talk. I want to watch a video. I want to gamble. Like I want to get that dopamine in my system. I want to work
Mm.
for other people. I want to work for 16 hours a day. Like I can't get my head out of work. I want to, like, it's just that. And that's why I'm thinking, like, it is a bug that becomes a feature. Like it started as a feature, but it turns to a bug where when the basic environment changes, it becomes a bug. Or well, what do you think? Like I think that's my point of view or point of argument in regards to like addictions. Or what are your thoughts?
I think based on what you've said, I'm trying to relate addiction in various environments. For example, like in the US, I think addiction in the US is a necessity because of the environment they are in. And hear me out. Basic human interaction is crucial for human survival. So when you see human beings, for example, Americans, where they are working 2 to 3 jobs in a day, they are trying to have the little form of social interactions in their workplace. But it's not the same as maybe someone who is working in Kenya, who they have an 8 to 5 job. They're able to choose, they're able to pick, they have options on social interaction, which social interactions are everything. That's where inventions are made. That is where conversations are started. You see, but I think when you compare the two environments and what the information you've given, it actually proves the fact that it can be a feature. For example, in Kenya, we get to see this Dunda culture. How do you explain Dunda culture to an Kenyan?
I think the simplest way for someone who's not in Kenya is clubbing, sherehe.
Clubbing, yeah,
Like
yeah,
we like party, yeah. Like it's a party nation. Like that's what we do.
yeah. We like to party a lot. It showcases how the 8 to 5 jobs are still, they're still jobs and we have social interactions, but they're not personified social interactions. So we tend to overdo it. But why is it that it's the same scenario, but on different scales of addiction? Because when
You're
you look at
frozen.
Americans, for example, and the level of addictions, hey man, Americans
Maybe you
have
disappeared
diverse
for a
in
minute.
terms of
You disappeared
pardon.
for a minute. So you were saying that we tend to overdo it. So like from that point, I kind of lost you.
Oh, I just said having a job, 2 to 3 jobs are yes, you're having social interactions, but they're not personified to who you are. They're not personified social interactions.
In short,
So
you are playing
there's
a
a
role,
level of
right? It's
misery that
like
is there.
you're playing the professional role of the job description. That's who you are at work, right? And actually,
Yeah.
and that's why I say, like, you remember in the first episode, we were talking about prophilicity, sincerity, and authenticity. You remember?
Yes.
So I think jobs have kept the sincere roles awake, still alive. Yeah? People are very sincere at work. Like, in short, I have a role. So every time, let's say I show up at work, if it's in our field, I'm a producer every day. But I cannot be a father. I can't be someone's child. I can't be someone's husband. I can't be someone's friend. Yes, we have people at work who we are friends with, but and that's why it's described that like that, like people at work who we are friends with. Yeah. In short, like the relationship transcended work. So like it's not about
Yes.
work anymore. But at work you play a sincere role. And funny thing, yeah, people in Silicon Valley with their offices with games, etc. Like the type of Silicon Valley we see in film, yeah? Like, do you think they were trying to get authentic roles at work? Like you can play, you can have fun, you can, so that like maybe the increased productivity, you stay at work long hours, you don't get depressed by the work, etc. But okay, you are
Exactly.
making a point. I just cut you off
Yeah.
because I thought of that. So
Yeah,
like
I think we were just changing the work setting because the work setting was really influenced by industrialization and like factory working. And then people realized that that is not going to work. If you want people to work 16, 18-hour shifts, we can't just be doing that. So we need to create spaces. That is why we started introducing coffee machines at work. That is why we started having kitchens at work. Like it's a different space from where people normally work and they can just come when they are making coffee and they are just having 2 3 minute conversations. I think i think social interaction is essential for human interaction. And I think one of the experiments you've said, I think I went through another one of a doctor who was trying to define time, if time was a reality or it is a construct. And he locked himself in a cave for like 2 months. But in his mind, his reality, his perception was he was like there for like 2 weeks. So like his normal sleeping patterns, because he was not aware of days and nights, he would maybe sleep for like 18 hours, be awake for a large amount of hours, because his study really influenced how people in space would be, because space doesn't have day and night. And yeah, so you would see in that same experiment, he was so alone, he was relieved to hear the echoes of his voice, because he was like, I'm alone here, and there's nothing as bad as a human being understanding they are alone. So him talking to him, he would talk to himself in the cave, and the echoes would be a sense of relief because he would feel like he was not alone. So that's why I'm saying, based on what we had said about if addiction is a bug or a feature,
you can,
I yeah, I think in different communities it is a bug, in different communities it is a
a feature,
feature.
because
It
on
progresses
that
like
point,
that.
yeah, because you've brought a very interesting point. Addiction is cultural. Yeah, like
Yes.
what you define as an addiction is cultural. Yeah. So because I saw, what is it called? This British comedian guy, Jimmy Carr, and it
Okay.
was he was in an interview. I think it was with Chris Williamson, yeah? And he said that he was talking about addiction, and he said like the the cure for addiction is not sobriety, it is purpose. And like, so like if let's say people are speaking about drug addiction, yeah, so the cure for addiction is not sobriety, it is purpose. but you understand it from a Western culture where, like, because of how they had organized their society, work had a lot of value in that
Yes.
society. So what happens is having a purpose. The purpose was individual. By definition, when someone says I have a purpose, it's usually an individual goal that you're doing. Yeah. So like
Yes.
their purposes are individual. So you're like, okay, because of their culture, that's of course what you would have said. And I'm talking to you, you're saying, no, addiction is cultural because we are social beings. And a lot of things, because pre-colonization, yeah, a lot of things in Africa were done socially. There were
Yes.
no, it was not an individual effort. Yeah, we tilled the land socially, we lived socially, we ate together. Like very few times you'll ever be in a house alone.
Yes.
And actually, the funny thing I've seen, yeah, like around Kenya, um, when you walk up to around upper middle class homes, I've noticed an interesting pattern. Yeah, when the parents build their home, they build homes also for their children in that same compound. But
Yes.
the people who are lower middle class or in the poor class, yeah, that's a luxury. So what happens? You get to an adult age, or what your parent perceives as adult. Yeah. So according to economics condition, you will be 16, and they're like, no, you need to find a way to get some money. We can't
Yes.
be able to support you. Yeah? So you get to that age, yeah, you start living alone. Eh? And if I'm going to take your argument, I'll be like, oh, okay, that's why people are getting. So that's why when you look at, it's one of the reasons, it's not the only reason. And I have this argument that the truth is never binary, right? It's never a specific one thing specifically. Yeah? It's
Yes.
usually a spectrum of a lot of things. So one of the reasons, according to your argument, will be because we are social beings culturally for us. Yeah, when you live alone, it contributes to the level of drug abuse and misuse in the, what can I say? How do you say the, how can you say poor communities in a good way? Okay, let me just call it that. Like, I'll be politically correct another day. Yeah. If you're poor in Kenya, like the level of drug abuse and misuse is higher. And funny thing also,
Yes.
when you are very rich, there's a lot of drug abuse and misuse. And I think it supports your point. There's no social environment for you. You can't fit in on either ends. For if you are underprivileged, that's the politically correct term. If you are living in an underprivileged community, like the only time, like that's why you've said, like you can only create a space, and what happens in that space is drug abuse and misuse, right? That's what happens in that space. For the middle class, upper middle class people in Kenya, and I also say, like, I'm not sure how rich people live. I don't know a lot of rich people. I know a few, and I don't think they are my friends. So I'm not sure. Yeah? So I haven't been in a lot of homes. But what I know, like people build homes and they like build other homes for their kids, for their children, right? For their adult children in this within the same
Yeah.
compound. Yeah, Debbie, you're frozen. Oh, okay.
I'm
Sorry.
present.
Okay, within the same compound. Yeah, that's an observation I made, and I'm like, it's a very African thing. It's something that if you can afford it, yeah, you are very African. So like, it was normal for people living communally in that sense. Imagine ukikufa kwa streaming.
That sounds. Yeah.
Okay, my point was, when you are underprivileged in Kenya, like you don't have that luxury, so it robs you of the immediate social safety net you have. So like I say, like
Yeah.
this has to be one of the reasons why, like, there's a lot of drug abuse, misuse in these communities. Like one of the reasons, it's not the only reason. And because of that, like automatically it creates an economy where drug dealers and other what can we call them? Social evils, uh,
Yeah.
other social evils can occur, right? Because like if people depend on drugs for their social well-being, to have that community. Yeah, and I explained because like when you are 18, your parent can no longer support you. You have to go out, you're on your own. Yeah. So you are depending on this for a social community, on this community you've created to satisfy that social need you have. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like you've created need. So the people who are selling drugs are making a lot of money. Of course, where there is money, there is insecurity, especially in an environment where people don't have money even to buy those drugs. So again, like I think it cascades in a way into that. Again, you come for the people who are extremely rich, and then it's a very common thing also. But here, I think the reason is different. It's isolation. It's
Yes.
isolation. Like you are isolated from, you don't have enough peers to form this relationship with. Yeah. So
Yes.
like you go clubbing, it's always a security risk for you. You do what like that, yeah. So I think it has an effect in that sense on the opposite spectrum of the economy or finances or wealth. Let's just call it wealth. So I think I agree with you. Like I think it's true. Like I think addiction is cultural. Addiction is cultural because you also raised a very important point. You said like for you, alcohol was not an ill, so you don't think of it as a drug, right? But for me, who was raised as South Catholic, alcohol was a drug. So
Yes.
like I was always curious, why is it a drug? It's not that I hadn't seen it being used
Yeah.
even in our home,
Mm.
but it had this stigma surrounding it. And for me, I interact with it as a drug because culturally it was not something that was okay. Yeah. It just like it was
Yeah.
something that was there socially, but it was not necessarily okay. So you could drink, but you couldn't become a drunkard. Yeah. Like you couldn't drink too much. Yeah. And the
So for
problem
me,
is the line of where I'm drinking and I'm a drunkard is very blurry, especially like pun intended. Yeah. Like at what limit are you a drunkard now?
I
So anyway,
get. I think for me, most of my uncles, because most of my uncles used to drink. The only disparity between my rich uncles who are drinking and my poor uncles who are drinking, I'd never find my rich uncle sleeping on the road, drunk, passed out.
but
You
you'll see your
get?
poor uncle.
But I'll see my poor uncle drunk,
So
passed out on the road.
so according to Debbie's words, the line between being a drunkard and drinking is the amount of money you have in your bank.
Yes.
But you are very, by the way, you, there is a point because if you look for some of the reasons why people drink, yeah, like let's say
Yes.
you're more likely to be exposed to stress if your finances are off. Like
Yes.
when you're having financial struggles, you're very stressed. So again, like also because of that, you're likely to overindulge. But I don't think the
Yes.
overindulging, but yeah, you're likely to overindulge, but also you don't have the safety net after you overindulge. So like
Yeah, but
you're likely to
you see the
overstay.
rich uncle. Yeah. You see, the rich uncle Sichach has a lot to lose. So him just drinking, there's a level of control that he needs to have. The poor man doesn't really feel like he's even worth it. He doesn't feel like, he's done much in this world. So it's easy to discard yourself. I don't know if that is the reason because
Oh, okay.
I'm trying
So
to
you are
think.
saying Jimmy Carr was also right, yeah? Lack of purpose.
Yes,
So
yes,
you don't have anything to occupy you. So what occupies you is how inadequate you are as a person.
yeah.
And
So
to starve off
escapism.
those feelings, you are
Yes,
drinking with other people
yes,
who are also inadequate.
yes.
So you are likely like to overdo it, right? Okay, so do you think that's why also like religion is big when you are underprivileged, when you are the poor uncle? Because you either have drugs or God, like, right?
Oh God. Or why it's the same reason why there's so many women in church, because women were not economically at par with men. I genuinely feel like religion gives poor people a high. It gives poor people a high in the sense that they will once be rich. And it might not be here, and that's why religion is constantly talking about heaven and hell. I
So
think
in the
heaven is a
future,
high.
happy are the poor.
Happy are the poor, yes.
The
It
religion
gives
of happy
poor
are the
people
poor.
a high.
Because you're saying that, I'm like, is it a high or okay? So basically, what we are saying, all addictions are a cope, right? You are coping with something,
Yes,
So
yes.
you are very religious because, but okay, my question is, what of the rich people who are religious
Uh,
at a
Aha.
fanatic level?
The difference at a fanatic level.
Yeah, like our president,
Uh,
alleged thief, alleged thief, billionaire, says that if we fail to re-elect him, he becomes a preacher. So
I
what is
genuinely think the perception of rich fanatic Christians is very different from um
poor fanatic
poor.
Christian?
Yes, because the poor fanatic Christian has only religion to think about.
Mhm.
Think about it. But the rich man is willing to go against the word to get his money. And I think, and
So it's so is it community for them? Because you made the argument for community, right? Because if
yes,
you go, let's say, to what is this church on Mombasa Road called? This
on Mombasa
Catholic,
Road,
this Catholic
yes,
church.
JC,
People there are a lot of rich people there, and there are a lot of
yes,
poor people there. Yeah.
yes,
So I'm like, is it because church gives you community? Because that's what,
it is.
when you are rich, that's what you are missing. You are missing
What what
community.
what happens when you're rich and you don't understand the love or consumption of any drug? Where would you go? It would be the
But
church. It would be mm,
no, no. So you don't want to use drugs, yeah? Because maybe you think like they are fucking up with your business, right?
yeah.
But you are still suffering. You're still okay. It's existentialism, right? And that's
I
why I was
think
saying, like, this whole thing is just fear of death. Like, it's just like it's existential in that sense. Like, you don't the problems that you have, because when you are rich, I'm assuming you also
yes,
get stressed,
yes.
or you
You
also
also have
get
problems. Yeah,
bored. Actually, you are very likely to get bored because even you are at a level where you don't have to go to work to earn a living, and
yeah,
you have attached so much value on a salary or an income at work that when you go to do it without the salary or an income, you almost have to make your work a religion. You have to get religious about the job. Yeah, like it's
yeah.
almost like it's an evangelical mission. Let's say you are rich and you are a teacher. Yeah, like you are the people who
Mm,
are like, yeah, it is a calling. I have to do, like, you're doing it for other purposes, but it is like, yeah, you get
yeah.
evangelical about it. While whereas someone else who is a teacher will be like, oh no, lazima ni show up. I have to show up because, again, if I don't show up, my salary is in jeopardy, my livelihood. Yeah, I may get fired.
I'd like to ask you a question. Let's take two major churches. Let's take Pastor Nganga's church. Uh, for those who are non-Kenyans, Pastor Nganga's church has a lot of low-income to middle-class attendees. And then we take a church like Sitam or GCC,
Oh
Pastor
yeah.
Kathy Kuna's church. Do you think the congregants have the same need that is being met in both churches?
I think Pastor Nganga preaches of you'll be blessed, right? God will make you
Mm-hmm.
rich.
Mm-hmm.
And then what is it? God will protect you in Kathikuna and Sitam. Like I think the evangelical message is different. It's both because they are
I
both
do
are
agree.
evangelical churches, yeah. But well, and there are the other form of church that you've not mentioned. Yeah? We have the churches that preach like heaven is where it's at. Yeah, like here we are alive for a short time, and then we will die, and then we will go to heaven, and no one is rich there. Like death as a great equalizer. And those are very
Mm-hmm.
different audiences, very different preachers, very different purposes, very different needs. Yeah?
Mm.
And that's why I say, like, I think preachers and politicians work on the same principles. Yeah, you know your audience. So
Mm.
when let's say I'm a politician and I know my constituency are underprivileged, I always talk of hope. We will do this for you. We'll provide this opportunity. We'll try and get a factory so that you can get employment this year. When my
Yeah.
constituents are wealthy, I'm talking about security. Like,
Mm.
like I have to understand the needs of my constituents.
And I also think churches that have wealthy people, they not only talk about security but influence. And here I think it's a power thing. Churches with people who have a lot of money tend to have small social groups, like how do I say this? Like Sitam has a thing for men where men go and eat nyama choma and talk about how Christianity and God and how they can how they can invest and how they can put their finances together. But you'll never see that in what
No.
churches
Okay.
or people.
Can I talk about it in a Catholic context?
Yes.
So, Catholic is a unique case. Yeah? In the sense that we have things that are called mtas, yeah, in Catholic. Yeah. So what
Mm-hmm.
happens? Mtas are divided geographically. Do you know what
Mm-hmm.
else is divided geographically?
What?
Economics. The economics, socioeconomic status of people is geographical, right? I'm sure there is a
Yes.
very huge correlation. So,
Yes.
like for example, in our church, we want to expand the church. So, like every mtaa is given a certain target, and then like
To
you have to
raise.
hit that target as a mtaa. Yep. Funny thing,
Yeah.
the targets are not equal. Like not
Yes.
every mtaa contributes equally. Yeah?
Yes.
So there is a mtaa that's contributing 70K, 18 people. There's a mtaa that's contributing 5K, 18 people. And I think it's the
Yeah.
same thing you're saying. Like we are meeting, we are talking about nyama choma, we are talking about investment. Now, I think for Catholic, it happens in the mtas. I don't know what's the English name of mtas. I think if you are a Catholic and you are listening from another country, you can share it on the comments. Eh?
Yeah. Like, is it like under the diocese of?
No, like okay. So what happens? So you have a diocese. A diocese covers a region, yeah, and then you
Yeah.
have a parish, yeah,
Yes.
and then
Mm-hmm.
when you are in a parish, the parish is divided into areas of mtas, like so small communities of people who like maybe on a weekday you have a mass. In short, like that's the purpose. I think that's why let's say churches are very good at organizing
Yes.
and
Mobilizing.
activating things. Yeah, like so it's very modular. Yeah, in that sense, but it's very also socioeconomically divided. Yeah, so that I think that allows the Catholic Church to not to have a homogeneous audience.
Mm.
I think that's neat. Like so, the Catholic Church has a very wide audience. Yeah, where for example, so there's those mtas which I'm sure they are very economic in their purpose, and then we have chamas. So chama cha wanaume, chama cha wamama, CWA, Catholic Women Association,
Mm.
Catholic Men Association. You'll find other groups like Family Life, where married people are in a group, and then like they are divided into cohorts. So like it's very age specific. There are a lot of it works differently. So it looks to satisfy all the needs you have in that. So you have CMA. So CMA is very wide.
I think it's the same with the Presbyterian PCA church, because both of my grandmothers are from the same church. And you'd find, like, I'm not even kidding, like a PCA church in Gedongori has been one of the oldest PCA churches, but they don't have a lot of technology and infrastructure. And then you find a new PCA church that was built like 20, 30 years ago, has a lot of TV screens, has a lot of mics, has a lot of this. And it's very economic. But it's also with economic, how do I say this? The level of education of an area of people also propels how the money comes in.
But my
And
question is, what is the I don't know. In other countries, I think there's a good correlation between level of education and level of income. Because in Kenya now, we also have people who are academic elites who are poor by
yes,
many standards, right? Like
yes,
you are an academic elite, but in terms of academics, you'd be considered an elite.
yes,
But in terms of income, you are considered an privileged.
yes,
I think in Kenya, we have that group of people, and I think that
yeah.
contributes a lot to our social media space. Overeducated, unemployed people. There are a lot of overeducated and unemployed.
And I think just because of that disparity, that is why we consume a lot of drugs. That is why we have a lot of, because we understand we are not earning the way we are supposed to earn.
Yeah, like it's
And the
almost like
people who are earning do
someone
not
stole
have
your
the
dream.
capacity.
Someone stole your
Yes,
dream, and you know who stole your
yes,
dream.
yes.
But I'm like, I think in this country, we need a better system. Like, it's too much. It's too
Mm.
much. And that's why, like, just getting back to addictions. So, do you agree with me that there's a fear of death element involved in addiction, or is that just a bullshit theory I'm trying to get views with?
No, I don't think it's a bullshit theory. I think it is an element to it. I guess maybe some of our audience would disagree, but I think death here doesn't mean dying physically. It can also be dying socially, dying emotionally. I think they're all aspects of death. Um, so I do agree with that statement. You should actually make a study, find someone who'd fund that research and fund
Of
that study.
the relationship between death and addiction, fear of death and addiction. But
Yeah.
don't you think that research is quite abstract? How do you concretize it? How do you make it concrete? Like, how do you make it tangible? Because the idea of death is actually very abstract. Because, like, as a human being or any other conscious animal, any other form of consciousness, like, there's no way to understand what death is. We don't understand nothing. Even when I ask you, Debbie, what is nothing? Because we associate death with nothingness, right? So like, and
Mm,
that's why in previous episodes you were saying, like, I was saying, I think it was me who was saying that, like, we have found a way to not die. Yeah. So when you have
mm,
religion, you don't die. Like, because when you die, you either
yes.
go to heaven or to hell. Either way, if you are a good person or you are a bad person, you don't die. If you are being
Mm,
reincarnated, you are not dying. You are just being
yeah.
recycled. Your soul is being recycled in the life ecosystem.
Yeah.
Let's say very few people who are pure atheists, atheists die, but also I think like a true atheist dies in the sense that since they don't believe there's a heaven, yeah, and I think a lot of true atheists are not vocal about it. They don't need to argue. They don't need to.
Let me let me ask you a question. Don't you think the the escape of death for atheists is their belief.
Oh yeah, like I think it's for me. This is what I think. I don't know if I'm an atheist. I'm not. I don't think I'm an atheist. I don't think I'm a Christian. I used to say I'm agnostic, and I still think I'm a very specific type of agnostic. Because maybe we'll talk about this in another episode. But let me just preempt a little. There's this thinking that I have that yes, God exists, but God mainly exists anthropomorphically. Like I don't think God would exist without people. It requires consciousness for God to exist. Yeah? And
Yeah.
I think the way the world works, yeah, I think there's something like a general, I agree with Kalyang a lot. Like we have a unified subconscious. There are things that as a
Yes.
human being, all of us know. We know it subconsciously and we share that thought,
Yeah.
all of us. And because we have a shared consciousness to some extent, and I really think we do have a shared consciousness, yeah? That means
Mm.
we share a lot of values, we share a lot of fears, we share a lot of struggles,
Mm.
we share a lot of ideas. So uh, once, let's say, if we look at the way human beings, the way civilizations grew, I think you can argue that, oh yeah, like everyone maybe had a spear or had a knife, a sword as a weapon at some point, despite the lack of trade. It was not a global village then, right? But we all developed
Yes.
these technologies, all of us. It's just
Mm.
that some areas developed faster than others. And then once we got the ability to get around continents on ships, like it changed a
Yeah.
lot. Now we started like trading technologies, etc. Yeah. And then we got
Yeah.
electricity and everything is flattened. Yeah? But
Yeah.
I think because like human civilization, that's why I'm saying even ideas, yeah, we share a lot of ideas. So I'm like, yeah, there is God, but I don't think he exists the way like we imagine he does exist. And also I've said it's not by mistake. To be honest, like what the attributes that people
Give God.
attach to God are very masculine. God is order. I keep saying this. I'm not saying that the feminine is weak, yeah? Because the attribute we attribute to femininity is nature. So mother nature, right? And nature is
Mm.
vicious. But also nature is chaos. Like nature is the natural, like really, yeah. So I'm like, it's the
Yes.
balance, it's the yin yang of me. And that's why I've said there's no way God is a woman, yeah? Because of the traits that we attribute to God. Even to feminine gods. Like even when you look across history, the feminine gods were very masculine in some sense. They had the order trait down pat. Yeah, they were very structured, logical, they really like. Uh, and that's why I've
Yeah.
said because gods are so logical. Yeah, I think just that fact makes them anthropomorphic. Yeah. They are dependent on
Mm.
human consciousness to exist, and because a lot of laws are created from that, stemming from especially the Magna Carta, a lot of laws that we follow now, a lot of cultural norms have a religious attachment to it. I think it's
Mm.
hard to live without God. So when people go to church, I go from time to time. And that's why I've said I'm agnostic in a strange way. Yeah. And I really
Yeah.
do believe there's a lot of power in being a human being. A lot. Yeah. Someone who is a creationist will argue like, oh no, human beings can't create. Yeah? But
But
every
we
day
do
of my
create.
life, human beings create every
Mm.
single day. And I keep saying the fact that you can use a smartphone right now. Huh? If
Yeah.
someone from the year 1800 came and saw what a smartphone is, they will just die. Like
Yeah.
there's no way to to reconcile the dissonance that they'll have.
Mm.
Because what do you mean you can talk to anyone in the world?
And you can
Yeah, like
see them.
yeah, and you can see them on like what do you mean?
Oh,
Yeah, you see, like the
Yeah.
amount of dissonance will be too much. And I'm like, we create all the time. We
Yeah.
create, yeah, we create, we evolve, we build. And my last argument, because by the way, if you're watching this, I have a paper somewhere online. It's called Finding the Face of God. It has this argument, but it's not complete. My completion of that argument was, it was coming to this argument that we have to be an expression of the universe itself. The universe itself has this fear of death. It's not just us. Because again,
Mm.
we have been, like, we are made with the exact elements that exist everywhere.
Yeah.
We are not new material. There's nothing new about us, right? But I think it's that fact that anything conscious can't help but create itself. So the universe has made this us, and that for us, like, we are not, it's almost like we are not cracking the problem fast enough. We are not getting there. We're not getting the point. We're not evolving fast enough. So what do?
Mm.
We create AIs, right? We create ourselves again, a faster version of who we are, a more efficient version of who we are. And I'm certain
Oh, yeah.
AIs will create another version of them, a faster, more precise, more. I think there is a hierarchy of we have to create ourselves. And that's why I think I told you one day, like, human beings can't help but extend themselves. There's this argument. This is a very McLuhan argument,
Mm-hmm.
in his book, Understanding Media, where he's making this argument that the book is called And Extensions of Man, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, basically, okay, let me bring this argument from the start. Like, he says that you can tell the main technology of a kingdom according to the medium that they used, right? Or this, so like you can correlate the size, okay, not the main technology, the size of a kingdom according to the technology they used. So ancient Egypt used to write on papyrus, right? And as a result, the kingdom was large in size because it's easy to carry papyrus. So the laws would spread far, yeah. But again, because it was written on papyrus, the kingdom did not last for long.
Mm.
Then you have the Mesopotamian Empire, where you have Mesopotamia, where the cuneiform was written on stone tablets, yeah. So the kingdom couldn't grow large because it's heavy, but it stayed for long. That's why we have the Hammurabi laws. Hammurabi laws, they have affected our new laws up to now. That's how
Today.
long the Mesopotamian legacy has existed, yeah.
No.
But that's not the point. The point is, and extensions of man is, you are tired of working, you make a car, right? Our technologies extend our abilities. You're tired, like, you don't, what can I say? You can't hit a nail, you can't join things together properly with your hands. You don't have enough power. You invent a hammer. It extends your arm. And also, it's this argument, like, I make, like, there's a new version of a human being. I think Homo sapiens is done, but we are not just there yet. We have something like I call, like, Homo sapiens cyborg, like, because sapiens means the same as a cyborg, but not in the same sense, yeah. Like, because I was saying that because we have managed to integrate what I'm forgetting, Dr. Vaveki calls psychotechnologies into our thinking. So, example, we have the alphabet, right? Like, immediately humanity got the alphabet system, the ABCD 26 letter, the alphabet, yeah. The level of development globally just went up exponentially. That's a psychotechnology. We have what coinage, yeah? Because coinage, that's simple mathematics. We can now equate, let's say, a cup, this cup, with a certain amount of Kenya shillings. I don't need you to give me a different form of cup. I can abstract, and that changed the way we think. So now we have stock markets, we have fiat currency, we have a lot of things that are abstract within us. And I think that's a very different person than someone who lived in the Bronze Age. And I think that's when we started. But anyway, these are a lot of ideas that maybe we can cover on other episodes under different titles. But basically today, it was Thanatophobia, why we love drugs so much, and Sanity. I think we should end the
I
podcast at
think
this point.
Yeah, and I think there's an aspect which I think we have not talked about. There that you might be addicted to a habit that is influenced by a drug. Going by what you had
Yeah, the
said before,
stimulus.
how drugs
But I think
affect
that's what you
our
made the argument. I think that was the argument you started with. Like you are not actually addicted to the drug. You are addicted to the stimuli of the drug, right?
Mhm.
Or are you
Yes.
making a different point?
But an example would be I'm a sex addict. Maybe whenever I take a sip of alcohol, it raises my
You get
dopamine
horny.
and I just want to. Yes,
You get
yes,
horny. Yeah? Like in short,
yes,
now you take alcohol. Yeah. What you are actually addicted to is not the alcohol; it's the horniness that you
no,
feel after taking alcohol. Yeah.
yes,
And then now you are addicted to the pleasure that you feel during sex. So it's a chain
yes,
addiction.
yes. So
Yeah, okay.
the best solution would be for you to stop the drug, but you can't because the
Because that's
drug
not
is
the
a means
problem.
to an end. Yes.
But my question, you're raising something interesting. Now my question is, Debbie,
Mm,
what like so you are misappropriating your addiction, basically, yeah? So it's not about the
yes,
alcohol. So let's say you get a placebo alcohol. It has 0% alcohol. Yeah. Do you think you'll end up in bed still?
yes. I'm not saying that is my addiction. I'm just saying
No, it's okay. Like you can
for
just say it's
someone
okay.
who,
Just
yeah,
say it. It's fine. And
uh-huh.
you'll find
But
you'll find a lot of our followers are buying you alcohol all over a sudden.
no, it's the same thing with I've met people who are like, I like to go clubbing, but I don't want to drink the alcohol. But they really enjoy the setting and they will drink and they will dance as if someone is drunk. But it means they're getting high not from alcohol, but the environment. The environment gives them a high.
Do you think human beings, like, okay, there's this in that specific example, like why people greet each other? Do you know why people greet each other? Well, like, let's say when we meet, I shake your hand. Okay, in a lot of cultures, maybe it was not greeting, but there was some form of body contact.
Oh, I
Do you
don't
know
know.
why? Okay,
No?
so the idea is, because a lot of our hormones are also stuck to, they leak through sweat also. We are always like sweaty in some sense. So what happens
Mm.
if, let's say, we are going to make a business deal with you and I meet you and I shake your hand? If you are nervous, you have cortisol in your system. And immediately I shake your hand, I know something is wrong. Immediately I touch you,
Oh,
I know something is wrong. The other thing, because you've said people who get high through clubbing, there's this thing that happens with alcohol. So, because I think alcohol has a lot of socio utility on its own. So I'm like, when people are drinking, when you're drinking, let's say you are inside the house, you are laughing, you're neat, yeah? Everyone carries the same energy. Yeah. And I think it's something with our pheromones and the way human beings function. That's how we trust each other. Yeah. But
mhm.
immediately someone has a vibe shift, the whole room has a vibe shift immediately. So you go to a club, you don't so
Mm.
people have this euphoric vibe in a club.
Babe. Yeah,
And
yeah.
even if you are not drunk, because you are a human being, you are interacting with this phenomenon. So I think that's okay. That's what I was saying. Like it gives you the same high without actually indulging in the alcohol.
Yes.
Oh,
So
but then
going to the point of saying the placebo alcohol would get the person drunk just for them to go and fuck.
So I'm like, so how do you cure the addiction of a sex addict who thinks they are an alcoholic?
We would need an expert on that.
You know what? Like when you get to mid-season, yeah, when you get to episode 6, yeah, we'll have episode
Yeah.
7 with like 2 therapists, and then like we'll
Who
go
will
through
answer the questions we've been having?
yeah, like we'll go through the episodes, and then like we have a conversation with them about those specific topics. Yeah, because we've
Mm,
been asking a lot of questions that need people who are qualified for that. Yeah.
mm,
And I think a lot of things we do in this podcast like are very psychology leaning, yeah? Not philosophy, even psychology
yeah.
leaning. So I'm like, we need to get a psychologist here. We'll do it mid.
ASAP.
We need no, not ASAP, mid season. Because by the way, guys, if you follow this podcast, yeah, it's Debbie's fault. If Debbie wanted, we could be doing this episode daily, this podcast daily. But because she's a sex addict who thinks he's an alcoholic, it can't work.
Oh my God. Yeah, buy me a lot of alcohol.
But then you can buy her alcohol by joining the memberships. Just you have a membership tier for $0.99. If it's in Kenya shillings, it's around 130 Kenya shillings. So please support
Yeah.
us, buy us alcohol. We are fine with it. But baby,
Yeah.
like you're raising so many good points. I'm like,
Yeah.
because that because I've always thought people are directly addicted to something. And that brings a lot of things. So what are we actually addicted to? You are addicted to, you think you're an alcoholic, but really you're a sex addict.
Or you think you're an alcoholic, but you have an addict to danger or violence. What happens? Like, we all know when you drink, you go fighting people and you're aggressive and you get out of there with punches and all of these things. And you've known since you began drinking alcohol, you always get violent.
What
Are
do you
you
think of people
addicted to alcohol or you're addicted to getting
to the
punches? You
violence?
know,
Yeah.
some of these
And
things.
what are
Yeah.
the people who remove clothes after they're drunk? What are they addicted? People like not for
I
sexual purpose.
say,
Like someone gets drunk and then they remove their clothes constantly because their problem is. I think do they just want to remove clothes? What does that symbolize culturally? Is it
see, there are people who,
rebellion? Is it rebellion? Like, are those do those people feel like they are being controlled with the societal expectations? Is it like a dream where you are being chased? Is it the
I
same?
think, I think it's the same thing that I've seen it a lot in Asian countries where people just flash you. Like they walk up to women and then usually they're men and they just flash themselves and then women just run away. I think it's maybe one of the points we did on the previous episode concerning removing innocence and
The death of innocence.
the death of innocence. Yes.
Is it the
Because
death of
why
their
would you?
innocence or the death of the world's innocence?
I think the death of the world's innocence. Because, like in high school, I'm not going to mention which high school I went to,
Mention
but it was
Debbie.
a school in Nairobi.
But then, guys, just
A
check
very
Debbie's
school.
LinkedIn. We will know what high school she went to. It's on her LinkedIn.
Because the school I was in, okay, let me just say it. I went to State House Girls. So the next, across the road was University of Nairobi. And there used to be this guy always Saturday in the morning when we were doing our chores, he would just run around the school, especially near the hostel area, and he would remove his clothes and he would find so much joy. hearing girls quacking and screaming. Because he would do that on a like it was never any other day of the week. It was always on a Saturday. I don't know if this man was working Monday to Friday. I don't understand it. But it was always on Saturday, just before we went for breakfast or just after. I can't remember.
So,
But it was
he fits
in between
the
that time.
definition of attention bias the best, right? It's something you do even when it's
Yes,
against your best interest, right? Like,
yes,
why would you do that to underage girls? Okay, like
yes.
even to overage people, why
What?
would you want to do that? Like, oh man, like why? And I'm like,
I
we need
don't know.
to solve a lot of things about the condition of being a human being, because I think it is a condition. I think we were just cursed by being conscious. Consciousness is a curse. Like, there's no good way to describe it.
Mhm,
Because I always see human beings as a colony, right? Like, I compare human beings
mhm.
to, let's say, bees or ants. Because again, like, if you look how we live, yeah, it's very similar. We build tall things with mud. We can call it stone, but
Yeah,
with earth, yeah. They are very defined shapes, very defined structures. We are very
yeah,
cooperative. Even when we are individuals, we are very cooperative. Yeah. So example, like,
yeah.
if, and that's why we have like jobs. So there are people who are
Mm,
warriors, so they are soldiers, etc. Yeah. There are people who are natural managerial class. I don't know how it happens. Yeah. And you
mm,
find these people always gravitate towards leadership, things like that. Yeah. And then there are
yeah,
people who are worker bees. Yeah, they like technical work. They like to build something and they see it. I built this. Yeah. It has hierarchy, of course, even within that. But the only way I think we differ from bees and ants is we are too conscious that you are aware that you are also an individual. It's too much.
mm,
It's too much, and that's why I said, like, we have a hive mind, and that's what I was calling, like, we have a collective consciousness as a race. Yeah. But our
mm,
individual consciousness overpowers that by far. And that's the curse. So there are always people who feel like, and I don't think it's a specific group. I think everyone, yeah. There are times where societal expectations become too much for an individual. Yeah. And I think that's
mm.
something that we should talk about, because you just say, like, this guy wakes up on a Saturday, probably he knows that, oh, these status girls, chicks will be children. Let me to don't call them chicks, because that's pedophilia ni and itaniletea je shida. Yes. Clothes. And
Imagine.
yeah, and now it's like, this is my opportunity to run naked. And by the way, if you're not Kenyan, yeah, if you know where State House Girls is, yeah, I promise you that person is not a poor person. I
It's
want
not.
to promise you. It's true, right? Like, they're not a poor person. Yeah.
State House Girls is near State House, which is basically where the president
Please.
resides in. To paint a picture, so the school is near the president's residential area. So the school, the because it was a high school, it's sandwiched between where the president lives and University of Nairobi. Like, you don't like it's so bad, and it's a
That's
busy
not an
road.
area
Like that
where,
is a very busy road.
that's not a proletariat area to live. Man, like, addictions, right? Anyway, like, maybe I have to end this episode now. Like, I
Yeah,
think, guys, if if you've managed to watch this episode to this point, please find people like you, watch it with them, subscribe. Please
yeah,
support our channel. You can donate to us by joining the
yeah.
channel. join. Like there's a membership for $1. It's not even $1, it's 99 cents. So like, please join us. We have other tiers, we have other projects that we are planning as My Life in Poetry, and they are going to roll out through the year. Please support us, join us. Thank you very much. See you in the upcoming episode.